a lot of us view financial success a certain way. Maybe it's just, having our business go as fast and as deep as it can, but we don't necessarily think about finances in a holistic way. How do you approach financial resilience in that case? It sounds like you're really thinking about the broader strokes as opposed to maybe just seeing successful numbers or wealth accumulation.
You mentioned the word holistic. Holistic means looking at things from the big picture, not sort of being a product pusher or you're selling a concept or a transaction of some kind. I like to actually use an example, a parable of somebody who likes sports. Let's say, unfortunately, I live in Toronto. You're in Montreal, Warren. So you've had a much better hockey team than we have, although I won't admit it. But, I've lived and died by the Toronto Maple Leafs. But one of the things that people love is the playoffs. The playoffs are this, very heavy duty, several weeks of grinding it out. And then there's a champion that wins the Stanley Cup. And what's interesting, Lauren, is the team that wins the Stanley Cup is normally the team with the best defense. They're the ones with the best goalie, the best defenseman. The goal scorers are good, but they're few and far between. So most of the people that I meet, particular entrepreneurs, are all offense. It's all building, creativity, leveraging, risk taking. And they don't really look at the defense because it's just not as sexy. But if you really want to be successful in life, you have to look at that defense because nobody's immune to disaster. Just to give the Titanic as a very good example.
A lot of our listeners are business leaders and entrepreneurs, and they're thinking about how can they have a positive impact? And a lot of us are thinking about how can we have generational wealth within our family, but then are also trying to think of how we can contribute to broader society. And I think the angle you're taking is that it doesn't have to be one or the other, that we can really think about it as strengthening on both sides as we build as a family as well.
I like to think there are kind of two people out there. There are those who give because it's just part of their makeup. They learned it in their religious schools or institutions or their family. They just have that DNA. And then there are other people who don't. They just never got that training. When those people who don't realize that they have a choice where they can give their taxes to, that their taxes could actually go to charity as opposed to going to Ottawa, suddenly they become accidental philanthropists. And the people who are already giving, when they understand about strategic philanthropy, they can actually give more for the same amount that they were putting out or give the same amount for less cost. So, it's really important to understand who you are. You mentioned about is it good for business? Look, there are different motivations for people who give money to charity. Some do it completely anonymously. Don't use my name anywhere, otherwise I'll never give you another penny. Those are very respectful people. Others do it because they want to encourage other people to give, and other people do it because they want some sort of immortality. They want their name on a building or a school chair or something. Then there are those people who do it for tax, right? That they want to save taxes. But there's also a big piece of people who do it for their business. It's good to be philanthropic for business and to build in philanthropy into your business because people like to do business with people who are giving back, especially when it comes to creating a vision for a business of if you could do anything, like there was no, impossibilities, like how dream big, and we've actually created, it's called sort of like a 10-point plan to turn your business into a philanthropic entrepreneurial business where you can actually find money in your business to give away and then make noise about that and get your clients involved and your suppliers involved and your staff. And it can really create a tremendous energy, which we're all looking for. We need some passion. We need that energy, but it's amazing what can be done. All that is required is you have to give it some attention.
Maybe just to double kick into that for a second as well. I feel like this wasn't necessarily something we were all taught, and I went to business school. We do have listeners who are curious to learn more. Are there certain tools, or do you feel like this is such an emerging market that it's like that story is being built as we go right now?
I'd say that it's getting more newsworthy. Why? I really feel like COVID really smacked us around. A lot of people are still recovering. I feel so bad for the little kids who had to, be homeschooled for all those years. But COVID made us much more aware of our mortality, right? And also more aware of our incompletions. Besides, wills and things like that, one of those incompletions was our legacy. Like most people will give money if Lauren, you called me up and said, Mark, I'm riding my bike to Barrie to conquer cancer. I give him my credit card number, off we go. But how many people have actually integrated strategic philanthropy into their estate plans or into their business planning? So I think that people are much more interested in what I call going from success to significance, and people can do that. And I think the important part here, Lauren, is understanding why is it that they don't know about this, or what information do they need to have. There are a lot of advisors out there. I would suggest maybe 95% of advisors are not really talking about philanthropy in a very strategic way. So if they're not speaking about it, and the charities are only interested in collecting money to keep the lights on with, checks and creded cards and maybe some donation of appreciated securities. If you're not learning it from those two pillars, then nobody knows about it. So it's almost like, you know, if I had the cure for cancer and I sort of created this in my garage, I'd come out and I'm like, who do I tell it to? Like, who's first and who's going to listen and who's going to believe me? Well, we don't have the cure for cancer, but there's so much incredible planning that the government has, given a check mark to allow people to be more generous to charity, because the government realizes that they cannot maintain the infrastructure of all of the social needs of our country. So I think it's really important that people find out how they could be using charity every year to mitigate taxes, and how they could be using charity to actually convert taxes in their estates to charitable legacies. So I think those are some of the areas that need a little bolstering. That's why I'm really happy, Lauren, to speak to your listeners about this.